Today on 21st Century Business, explore state-of-the-art technology, innovative business strategies, insights from cutting-edge corporations around the globe, a visionary look into the answers of tomorrow, today. Business leaders, business solutions, 21st Century Business.
Welcome to 21st Century Business. I'm Jackie Bales. With all the talk of climate change and government incentives around the globe to reduce carbon output, many companies see low carbon, clean tech, and clean energy as terrific opportunities. Maybe they have an idea, a proposal, or a new product, but they don't know where to start or what the risks are. Our next guest says what they need is some tailored strategic advice. We're joined by Joachim Baumgaertner, the Managing Director of Green Rhino Energy. Welcome, Joachim.
It's my pleasure to be here, Jackie.
Joachim, it sounds like it is not easy to get started with clean energy ideas and projects.
Yeah, I mean, there are some real challenges. For instance, the first is capital. There's a real competition, intense competition for capital. Second is public policy risk. There is a risk that there are changes, arbitrary, frequent changes in public policy that can affect your business. Third is that your economics of the technology may actually not transfer to other geographies or jurisdictions, and that can limit your growth. And fourth, it's a marketing challenge. Many of those clean tech products are actually targeted directly at homeowners, and energy is just not on the top of their priorities, so they're not going to come around knocking at your door.
Got it. So explain who Green Rhino Energy is and what you aim to provide.
So Green Rhino Energy is a management consultancy specializing in clean energy. And with our knowledge and experience, we can actually bridge technology and finance. So we help organizations meet those challenges that I just talked about by working out best business models, strategy. We prepare business plans that can actually attract funding, and we undertake project due diligence and market research intelligence.
Wow, it sure sounds like some solid expertise there. Joachim, there's a lot of interest in the clean energy sector, but many companies find it difficult to attract investment or debt. Why is this?
As I said, there's an intense competition for capital and for actually the diaries of investors. So it's really, really important that you come up with a proposal that is pitched at the right level and that demonstrates that you know the risks and are in control of them. But in addition, preference is given to people that have the right management experience and can provide a whole pipeline of projects.
What are the obstacles for large financial investors?
That's really interesting because the cash flows of many renewable energy projects are actually really attractive for institutional investors, but the sums involved are just too small. So the challenge is to find a way you can bundle all those cash flows to make it interesting for large institutional investors. And then you could release a lot of new capital that hasn't actually flown into the sector.
Fascinating. You know, so far the clean tech sector has been very focused on technology and products. But of course, technology doesn't sell itself, especially in an increasingly competitive market. So what are the marketing challenges in this sector, and how are some companies excelling at it?
I think you just have to get the technology story to resonate with your customers. So rather than focusing on a lot of technical features like efficiencies and coefficients, you really want to show the customer's benefits. So for instance, in photovoltaics, so solar modules, you could actually market this as a consumer finance product. It's if you have $10,000 and you want higher interest than on your treasury note, you may actually invest in solar.
That's maybe a good idea. Very interesting. How important is a global strategy for clean tech companies, and to what extent is that different from other industries?
I think it's very important, especially if you rely on the political goodwill of a of a country.
Oh,
So
right.
you've got to be in several countries in order to mitigate your risk. I mean, for instance, last December, the French government announced it wouldn't subsidize solar anymore. And if you're only in France with your solar products, that would be the end of it.
Pretty much, and the end of you, I guess. To what extent do renewable energy technologies change the business model of electricity generation? And how does that change present an opportunity for new players?
Well, see, to generate the same amount of electricity as with nuclear or coal, you need a lot more space using renewable technologies. So you are going to use built up land and farmland. And so your electricity consumers now become also generators. And that means you have a lot more clients to target directly as an energy technology company.
Can you give me an example of one such challenger?
That's an interesting question. I think because of the nature, it's actually so many challenges. It's much more democratic than that.
Joachim, what does a new technology in renewable energy have to prove to attract investors' attention?
Well, if it's a technology where there is already a dominant design like the 3 blades in wind energy, then you have to really demonstrate a step change, not just 10%, because you have to justify switching costs.
Good point.
Otherwise, you may actually have to just focus on a niche area where there isn't so much competition from established players.
Is clean tech just a bubble, you think?
No, I don't think so. Obviously, there's a lot of attention from governments at the moment because of concerns about energy security, because of concerns about climate change, and it has prompted governments into creating all sorts of stimulus packages. They're obviously good for the sector, but there are some other really strong drivers like cost savings and then the chronic underinvestment in the energy industry over the last decade. So a lot of power plants have come up for replacement now anyway. And the third point is that with the population growth and the growth in world economy, there's just so much to get on with in energy.
So we're going to be working with clean tech forever, I think.
Probably much more than we have done in the past.
Yeah, it's certainly not a bubble. Let's talk about political risk. What are the signs that a government may cut its subsidies earlier than expected?
Now that's a tough question because you can't second guess governments, but I would say that where a government subsidy for particular technology is way above what other countries pay, then I would say there's a real risk that these subsidies will be cut much more sharply and much quicker than you would expect.
You know, there are also constant talks, it seems, about climate change and climate change targets at the international level. How relevant is the outcome of these discussions on the strategy of clean tech companies and investors?
So obviously they are relevant because they're creating a lot of stimulus. And but I would say that whatever the outcome is, there will be policy changes because that's what politics is all about.
The pendulum swings this way and then the pendulum swings that way.
I think it's just a sector that has to accept these risks.
So it's just part of doing business, bottom line.
Don't wait for some climate talks to finish. Policy changes will happen anyway.
Well, Joachim, you've clearly demonstrated how much there is to know in this field and why businesses need to have a thought-through plan. So thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Jackie.
And thank you for watching. For 21st Century Business, I'm Jackie Bales.